Welcome to the Midlife Pilot Podcast. We are glad you're with us. What is it like to become a pilot in your 40s and 50s? The challenges are unique for those of us in midlife, but so are the rewards. Hosts Ben, Brian, and Ted talk learning to fly, growing as pilots, and the joy of flying to destinations. The purpose of the podcast is not to teach, but to share knowledge and experiences of being a midlife pilot. Join the Midlife Pilot community and listen in every week. We are not CFIs or particularly intelligent, so if you want to learn how to fly, talk to anyone else other than the hosts of a podcast. Even this intro was too challenging for us, and we used a robot to do it. Okay, checklists are complete. Let's get the show started.
Hello and welcome to episode 160 of the Midlife Pilot Podcast, where we share the experiences and challenges of flying in midlife. My name is Ben. I'm a pilot in the Atlanta metro area, and joining me tonight, it's my friend, Mr. Test Taker Extraordinaire. He's live on Music Row. It's our friend Brian. Good evening.
Good evening. Glad to be here. Hello, everybody.
The man who has taken more tests in the last month than I've taken almost in my aviation career. It's pretty crazy. Also joining us tonight in the beautiful Pacific Northwest, also known as Portlandia. It is our favorite sport pilot. His name is Ted. Good evening, sir.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. Yeah. And I've taken 0 tests in quite a while.
and that's not necessarily a bad thing, Ted.
Yeah.
Tonight we're going to be talking about the importance of community, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but wanted to catch up to see what the fella's been up to. Brian, give us a little bit more detail. You have you done anything besides study in the last 4 weeks?
No, except for forget how to function as a normal human being in virtually every other aspect of life. So it has been nonstop, 5 weeks actually of nonstop studying and testing. So that was the instrument written, then the IGI, then fundamentals of instruction, then commercial written, and tomorrow is AGI.
Wow.
In 5 weeks. Wow. That is very, very impressive. And I know we were talking earlier. I'm not going to ask you to tell the world, but you did pretty damn good on all of them. Sounds like to me. I
did okay. I'm a little reticent about that. I feel like the AGI is kind of sneaking up on me a little bit. There's a lot in there that, I don't know a lot about. I haven't had to know a lot about recreational pilots, or some of the others have had some rotorcraft questions, but this one definitely has, I think, more. There's a lot of things in the AGI test that I think if I were already commercial rated, or at least in that training, certain things would probably make a little bit more sense. But overall, I'm getting through it. AGI, for those who are not aware, is Advanced Ground Instructor. So, and maybe I should just step back and just explain kind of what I'm doing and why. And I consider it to be, it's sort of like a gateway drug situation that I've kind of ended up in. I didn't mean to be here. I didn't know I would turn out like this. But obviously I want to get my instrument rating. I've got my check ride scheduled. You need to get the written done. I got some training to finish up. So I started studying for and took the instrument written test. After you take the instrument written test, and a lot of folks already know this, but a lot of folks probably don't. And those maybe that are just thinking about flying or getting into private, it's something you can kind of be thinking about down the road, but you can take the instrument ground instructor test right after the instrument test, and it's virtually the same material. There's a few extra things. There's a couple of little bits, but generally the same test. And so if you've gone to the great struggle of getting all that information to occupy limited amounts of brain cells, you might as well have that data stored for just a little while longer and turn right around and take the IGI. So I did that, and I thought, great, I did, the thing. And then once I took the IGI, I thought, well, if I take the FOI, that's sort of the fundamentals of instruction is the FOI. that sort of activates the IGI in such a way that I actually can get an instrument ground instructor certificate. And so I thought, well, I might as well just, I don't know, have that ability. If I've passed the test, I might as well, sort of activate it with the FOI. So I took the FOI. And then I just thought, well, I've already taken a bunch of tests lately. I might as well just, that they keep a seat warm for me over at the testing center at Tennessee Flight Training. So why not? It's like, I know how the coffee machine works. Maybe I'll just do this more. I know that I want to go for my commercial right after my instrument training is done and my check ride is done. Because I already have pretty much all of the requirements. I basically will have to do one night cross country that is dual, and then learn the maneuvers and get ready for the oral check ride prep piece of it, which I know is no joke, but, getting all that, and I'll just be already there with that done. Great. So then, I thought, well, if I've got the FOI and I got the AGI, I might as well if I've got the FOI and the IGI, this episode sucks. I'm sorry, people. Okay. If I've got the instrument ground instructor, the fundamentals of instruction, I might as well get the advanced ground instructor. So instruction exam done as well. So then, I'm sorry. This is one more layer of all this that people aren't aware of. You're supposed to call the FSDO and go get your process done with the IACRA application, and they will take your proof of taking the IGI, the FOI, and the AGI, and then you apply for your instructor certificates, and then they give you a temporary one, just in the same way you get a temporary for a rating or whatever. And then they mail you a card in 4 weeks. Well, I call the FSDO, which is scary. No.
You got a number to call.
I figure I'm just going to beat them to the punch. I'm going to call you. So, I left a message. They got back to me about a week later, and they said, we don't do that anymore. We're too shorthanded, but here's a list of every DPE in your area. They will do it for you, but DPEs charge money for this. And so I thought, well, I'll go ahead and get the AGI done because I don't want to go to a DPE twice to get the same paperwork done. I might as well just get it all in one shot. And then, so I started to think that way. And then I realized, well, wait a minute. If I'm paying a DPE for my instrument check ride and he's going to be processing that, then I can just kind of throw that on top then. So anyway, it's just
that's the DP version of the Blue Plate Special.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And for those that also want to know, Brian will be sitting for the bar exam for Tennessee in 2 weeks. So
yeah, honestly, it's probably pretty easy. So anyway, I don't want to. Oh yeah, somebody asked, is there a BGI?
Yeah, I want to hit Ugly Cub here asking, is there a BGI? Because I had the same thought. Is there a basic ground instructor if you are getting advanced ground instructor with AGI?
There is a BGI, but if you're doing AGI, then you don't need to do the BGI. This episode is just, there's more acronyms already. There's been 37 acronyms in the first 5 minutes of this podcast.
And we got to recognize the movie quote, look at the big brain on Brad. Yeah.
Well, so it's the art of taking the test. It's not, there's a ton of stuff that's not on these exams at all that I know is incredibly important in the oral check ride, say for commercial, right?
Yeah.
Getting grilled on all the regulations in a totally different way. So there's no mention of common carriage on the commercial exam. You know what I mean? There's the words holding out are never said on the commercial written exam. So it's just a matter of in finality, I'll just say it's like once you're in the pool, you might as well just stay in there and get all these things done. It's so much harder to get out and then reacclimate to the modality of studying and taking the test and all of that. So I think I told you this earlier this week, Ben, but I'm basically sitting in front of a giant plate of cold raw broccoli, and I'm just shoving it in my face, eating it and trying to smile and laugh, sort of while I do it. This is awful. And I would say, if you don't like taking tests, then do as many as you can. Try to look down the track of what you want to accomplish and just go ahead and get them all done. So anyway, it's been cool though. I've definitely learned some things, and I'll probably forget a lot of things too.
Well, that was a lot. I mean, but it's also very impressive. I am about to jump into another learning pool here, hopefully in the near future. So I'll need to find my background music playlist. Maybe you can give me a few suggestions. But
yeah,
Ted, what have you been up to, sir?
Man, I had almost as much fun. I was out working on the plane this week, so buttoned it back up. I had it opened up to do what's it called? Pictures of the cylinders, borescopes. And so buttoned it all back up, and I had my Dynon panel that came back, and I was just kind of putting it back in, getting everything perfect, and had quite the experience actually with realizing that the problem aren't the tiny bolts that hold the Dynon panel on that are stripped out. The problem is actually that I'm using very low end T-handle wrenches, and that's why there's a size in between the two that doesn't exist. But it was just because they made the wrenches all on the wrong sizes. So I was really struggling with these bolts that are between 2 and 2.5 millimeter heads. And once I discovered that was the problem and used better bits, it was like, oh, this all goes back together. It's really nice. So did that, took the plane outside. It wasn't running quite right. I'm like, I know what this is, because this happens after working on the spark plugs, and just needed to see what cylinder was a little bit cooler than the others, and then just reseat the spark plug or spark plug boot. So, and drag it back into the hangar to decowl it, reseat the boot, then drag it back out into the rain again to test it. It's like, oh man, am I really doing this out in the rain? So yeah, nice, fun projects to be working on. But it's nice to like check things off that I've needed to get done.
Yeah.
And it was a very inexpensive day. It's not like you're out there burning gas, and there's just it's a cathartic way to get something done, to move the ball forward.
Yeah.
I've had a kind of a busy week. I had to go back to Savannah, kind of doing my farewell tour with my company. For those that are listening to the podcast, my little subtitle today is 8 days and a wake up. That's how much time I have left before I retire from my current employer. Man. And had some of my clients that I've known for many, many years throw me a little bit of a party, a little happy hour. And then I got to have dinner with our friend Elliot, Echo Charlie, who, by the way, passed his ATP today.
So, all right.
Massive shout out to Elliot. He's been such a good friend to me, a great mentor. He flies a G550, and he's got a pretty sweet gig right now. Yeah. So, and he recognized that. So, and then our friend, friend of the show, Lord Alpha Juliet, who appears to be in the chat tonight, invited me to go just sit and fly with him and one of his other club members. They needed to drop a plane off, and we did some pretty tight formation flying. And with Lord Alpha Juliet at the controls, we actually did a element landing, which I have not done before, which means that we're both landing on the runway basically at the same time.
Wow.
It's a different sight picture, I can tell you that. It's something that's unusual, but AJ's very proficient in the formation flying, and I felt very comfortable. And so that was a lot of fun, just a different experience. And then, I've got a flight tomorrow coming up to your neck of the woods, Mr. Siskind. Freedom Aviation flight. So only be up there for a short bit. And then, it's been a fun couple of days. It's now, things are starting to wind down, and you're flying in. You're flying into Lebanon. Lebanon, I believe, is the correct pronunciation.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Make sure when you get on the frequency there, you don't say Lebanon.
It's Lebanon.
Or they'll send out people to intercept you.
The weather's supposed to be good but the fatigue level may have me staying in Nashville. I don't know. We'll see how it is for myself, because I've got to go pick up the folks in Lebanon, take them down to Albany, and then back to Lebanon, then back to home.
Well, you got a place here, my friend, and just go through the normal Airbnb listing for just your credit card's good here.
Exactly. Look, right.
All you have to do to find Brian is find the testing center.
I am here to see Mr. Sisko. Oh yeah, he's in the middle of a test. Give him a few minutes, he'll be done.
Exactly.
I really am running out of tests.
Yeah. Now, Ben, was that flight with AJ? Was that the one I saw the picture of over town, over Atlanta itself?
That was a different one.
Okay.
I was not part of that, and that was at night, I believe, which was very interesting. No, this was yesterday. So that was a different one.
And I have to pull up AJ's comment. He says, fairly proficient means I haven't made airplanes touch each other recently. So that is the number one goal of ATC and pilots is don't let the planes touch. That's
correct.
Number one goal. Yeah.
Rarely turns out well when they do.
Yes.
At least for one of them.
Yeah.
Want to remind everybody that we have our big meetup in the spring, the Midlife Pilot Podcast Fly-In, the Thaden Invasion at Victor Bravo Tango, Bentonville, Arkansas, March 13th through the 15th, 2026. We are in communication with the airport, working on some stuff. There's going to be more information coming out in the following weeks. And I believe we're going to try to have somebody from the airport on a podcast after the beginning, at the beginning of the year. Is that correct?
That's the goal.
That's the goal.
Sometime before then. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and the idea too is not just to get the overview of the facility and the airspace and all of that, which, by the way, on our website, if you go to the RSVP page, there is a link there to Seth Lake's fantastic information on all of the airspace there, which is crowded. And so you should know what's going on. But yeah, we want to have those folks on also to talk about all of the adventure packages and things that they offer, for backcountry training and excursions and all of that. So there's a lot to do. But I will say, we have a lot of people coming already, and we might need to enforce some plane pooling rules.
Yeah.
If we want to get everybody in there, they don't have infinite parking. So that's the thing that everybody needs to stay tuned for. And if you do RSVP, I think that we have it set up to where it's we have sort of the I'm RSVPing and then the are you sure level. I'm raising my hand versus I'm pretty darn sure. Obviously, weather and plane and all the other factors aside, if you've already RSVP'd and you already know that it ain't happening because something's come up, just let us know, because we are really trying to dial in these numbers and make it work for everybody in a way that makes sense. And, they have been very cool with us, and we're very excited, and we're going to have, I think, a great space to do the podcast live, and everybody should be there for that. But it's going to take a little bit of finesse. So we'll need everybody's cooperation on that.
Think about that airport as being like a Trader Joe's. There are lots of things to discover. There are cool things, things that you don't see at a lot of airports. Also a very tiny parking lot. So that's like the story of every Trader Joe's ever, right? Is small parking lots. So same sort of thing. They're constrained, and that's
so
fine.
You have Oshkosh, you have Sun and Fun, and now we are the Trader Joe's of fly-ins, the Midlife Pilot Podcast fly-in. I like it.
Yes, exactly.
I think we're more like the Kroger.
Well, tonight's episode is going to be talking about the importance of community. But before we dive into that, Brian, why don't you go ahead and hit the housekeeping, and we can hit all.
Oh yeah, just real Yeah, just real quick. Join our Patreon community for Discord access and lots of exclusive content. Incredible check ride debriefs and so much more are on our Patreon. A lot of content there. 10% supports Freedom Aviation Network's anti-human trafficking efforts. So know that you're doing some good in the world, and not by giving a proportion to them. We are not necessarily helping the world. For everything Midlife Pilot Podcast, feedback, merch, and more, visit midlifepilotpodcast.com. I did see, we haven't widely advertised it, but there are some Fade and Invasion shirts there. So people can find each other, I guess, while we're all there. But we'll have name tags probably or something too, right? Or like, hello, my name is. There'll be lanyards. I don't know. There'll be something. It'll be something that is directly in line with the price of admission that everybody's paying to be there.
And midlife themed.
Midlife themed. Yeah. It's like, here's a Sharpie.
Yes.
Anyway, thanks for everybody, for the Patreon support. It means everything because we can't do it with this thing costs money. So really appreciate it.
Very much.
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to highlight some of the accomplishments that we've seen this week. You never know from one week to the next what's going to go on. And I think this time of year it gets a little bit quieter, but there's always some cool things in there. Our European friend Hakan had his first flight over the clouds, not in, but over. He was talking about learning what FEW 003 means in a METAR, and had his first non-pilot passenger, and quote, she didn't run screaming away. That's a wild success.
Victory.
When there's no, she may have run away or she might have been screaming, but not both. Gary, our friend Gary from Colorado, had his second dual cross country. Lots of wind on his dual cross country, but not near as much as his home airport had last week, where it hit 70 knots of wind. And they evacuated the tower, and it was quite the adventure. So he wasn't flying in that, thankfully. Alex, our friend up in Canada, is checked off for solo flight. That's always awesome.
Yeah.
I was looking up the airport that he was sharing a picture of, and I noticed that the nearest business to it is a Tim Hortons. So definitely that's in Canada. It's either that or, the other one is A&W. Things that are very Canadian for some reason. And then shout out to Keith C. In Arkansas, who shared a bunch of pictures in our Vids and Pics channel.
Yeah, with the awesome Technum.
Yeah, with this Technum, and it's just beautiful blue sky. It just, it looks so great. So I was really happy to see the photos from him.
And I appreciate the fact that you appreciate that, because I know where you are. There hasn't been a lot of blue skies lately, has there? It brings you back home maybe a little bit.
Yeah, we had some this morning, and then it went away.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But a little bit helps.
Exactly.
So tonight, we're framing this up around how important being a part of a community, whether it's ours or anybody else, somebody you have even a small circle of friends, how important it is. And it's also kind of a follow-up to last week's episode where I detailed my flight from Ohio to Georgia, where we encountered some icing. And the day, Brian, you published this thing pretty early in the morning, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
Yeah, they usually go at about 6 a.m. on Tuesday. Not that that's happening tomorrow, but typically.
No, but typically. But by about 9:30, I got a really long text from somebody who I have a significant amount of respect for. Mm-hmm. And the tone of the text was really a strong punch in the nose. And it really shook me pretty hard. It's something, though, that I needed to hear. And again, as I said at the last episode, we're creating this for people to listen to, and we're opening ourselves up to be judged one way or the other. And I fully expect that. And we've gotten quite a bit of feedback, not a lot, but we've gotten some. And all of it has been very respectful. But this person that I'm friends with basically laid it on me. And he was right in most regards, in that I spent most of that podcast explaining or justifying why I did what I did. And when you have to justify something over and over and over again, basically, maybe you didn't do it right. Maybe you did screw up. And what I did was actually the very definition of normalization of deviance. And, it's not easy for me to admit this out loud, but if I'm looking in the mirror, which is what I typically do when something goes wrong, I'm the one that has a direct connection into trying to make it right. And that, you know what? The first on icing, I should have found a place to land and gone and waited it out, or rented a car and drove the rest of the way home. We also got some feedback from a listener as well, which we're going to get into in a minute. But he told me in that text, he said, Ben, you knew when you landed that you got away with one. And he's right. I did. And I spent from basically the moment that we got on the ground and got back to the house all the way through that podcast that what I did was okay because of this reason, this reason, and this reason. And it wasn't okay. I shouldn't have to explain why I do something. You get into icing, you get out of it. Whatever it takes for you to do that. So
can I throw something out there, Ben?
Yeah, please.
I want to say first that, and obviously we have a few layers of what this episode is about right now. We have on a top layer, we have the importance of community, and obviously we're talking about aviation community. And then next layer down, we're sort of referring back to the previous episode where you detailed this flight and had your position on it and had your outlook on how it went and all of that. If you haven't heard episode 159, go back and listen maybe, and this will make more sense. Typically, we don't do things that span multiple episodes or require a lot of memory because we are, in fact, the Midlife Pilot podcast. But all that to be said, I just wanted to get out there that I've had certainly moments in my life outside of aviation, right? And we all have, where when someone that you really, really respect and that has the right and the position and the regard to speak to you about, to confront you about something, there's a way that cuts that is so much deeper than just random person on an internet comment saying things. Even if they're saying materially the same message, there's something that just really, really cuts. There's some sort of proportionality between the level of respect and appreciation you have for that person and how deep it basically hurts.
Yes.
And so I just wanted to say first and foremost that while you did say this is a person that you very much respect, I really wanted to make sure that it's highlighted here how this is not just any person that you respect because they've got a resume or whatever it is.
Yeah.
This is something where you have a human connection and an aviation connection, and we'll leave it at that. I'm not sure how much you want to.
No, we're not going to go into it that much more, but it's we were having a laugh about it. My friend Elliot, who I had dinner with Thursday night, is also friends with this person, and I told him, this guy has burned his way into my psyche so much so that, like, when I grab a salt shaker to put some more salt on my fries, I hear this person's voice say, "Do you really need more sodium, Ben?" It's like every action I took for 3 days after that text, I heard his voice in my head saying, "Should you really be doing that?"
Flying into known sodium.
Exactly. Do you really need to take the interstate? Maybe the secondary roads will be a little bit better for you. So, it's, and we had a laugh about it. Here's the bottom line. I do feel like I'm going to come away from this a better pilot. And it's because of our community.
Yeah. And
it doesn't matter that I'm coming up on 1,300 hours or if you have 13 hours. That having a group of people that will sit there and say, what you did was dumb. Don't do that again. Because the next time might not get away with it. And that is the very definition of normalization of deviance. And I recognize that now, and it'll be a lesson that I take with me forever. So,
well, I think also part of that too was that the point that this person made, and maybe some others, and this is not to say that when you have a community, the beauty of that is that it's usually more than one person. And so you can weigh out the various feedback that you get from different angles and come up with some sort of a more, a richer contextual understanding of what all of the different inputs and outputs are of the whole thing. But in the case of this, I think that what was perhaps the turning point in your recollection of this flight and what decisions that you made under those conditions was the point where you said, more or less, I'm paraphrasing, but more or less you said, I think under these circumstances, I would be okay with doing that again. And that was really that's where the landmines kind of got stepped on.
100%. And I am 100% with you on that. If that situation were to present itself again, I absolutely would not. I am correcting myself in that, or I'm admitting my mistake. I'm not correct. I feel like deep down inside, I had two ways I could have gone with that statement. And it felt like I just kind of blurted out the first one that popped into my mind. When deep in my heart, I know that I wouldn't have taken that flight again. And again, it was part of that justification of what I did. I wanted to back that up. And that was wrong. And I knew it deep down, and I chose to ignore it. I had a voice conversation with this person, and he also reminded me of something that really kind of made me pulled me out of the doldrums a little bit. And he said, what this shows is that I'm human, that we are all fallible, that we're all subjects to making the wrong decision, and that these are one of those decisions that you can either learn from or make your situation worse. And so, and that felt good to hear. So, I thought maybe if you want to, Brian, if you want to hit some of the feedback that we got, because it kind of directly ties into this.
You know, one thing that I was thinking is we're kind of emphasizing that this is someone that you respect highly, and that's why it meant a lot. And the other side of that is it meant a lot because of how it was communicated and because of kind of the truths that were in it.
Right.
And that's something that I think of Brian and Mark, Wendell Geek, as being people who are very good at saying, please tell me when I'm flying, you're another pilot in the plane with me. Please tell me when I'm screwing up. And it's putting yourself in that position where you can take that feedback. And so this is that coming back at you, right? Is being someone who's willing to take it and so it's not just because of who it came from, but it's also the meaning that it had. So I just think that's important because it's not that you have to become that person. It's that we need to put ourselves in that position to receive the feedback.
You got to have humility in aviation.
That's the thing I'm most proud of. You
absolutely have to. And you've got to be willing to look at yourself in the mirror and say, yep, I screwed up. I got away with one. I'm not going to let that happen again. And it is not an easy thing to do. So,
yeah. Well, also give yourself some grace in the sense that you're still embodying. You're still a role model to me. As a person that has more experience than I do.
Now
to see how you handle that.
Your taste, but keep going, please.
I
pay you a lot of money to be a role model. Let's just get that out in the open.
I don't know. Like there's always that point when you're a kid where you see your dad just become utterly hapless and human. He slips on ice on the driveway or something, or there's always that moment where you go, oh, okay, you're just kind of a dude. All right, I get it.
Maybe it's because it's the season, but I'm thinking of that moment like when you're a kid and you realize that adults are basically the same as you, just slightly older. And it makes me think of Bad Santa. Just that same like, wait, I know who this guy is. This is not Santa. This is
no,
this
but
is Billy Bob. Yeah.
Well, you're our Billy Bob, Ben, and
I'm going to start crying. I mean, come on.
No, but I'm stepping back also to highlight to our listeners and everybody in the chat here that anybody that's doing an aviation podcast is putting themselves out there to be critiqued or lit up in the comments or whatever. So, that's another reason why, even on another level, really appreciate you sort of, owning up to some things and correcting some things. And our audience should know that that's exactly what we are here to do. And we're just going to be as honest as we can about things. But we're always trying to get better. Everybody's trying to get better. And that is the value of communities. We help each other get better. Now, as far as this feedback, Ben, you said you want me to read the first one or the second one?
I'll leave that up to you. I think maybe the first one has a good story, and then the second one goes along with what this is another person that sent us email feedback that has similar to what my friend texted. But yeah, go ahead.
I'll read the first one because I hate reading the long stuff. So we'll leave the second one to you, Brian. So because of the topic, I'm going to give less of a name on these. And this is PL, who said, as always, wanted to let you know how much I appreciate the podcast and discussions. The normalization of deviance and icing talk is timely, given a recent experience I had when planning a trip to somewhere this past weekend, planning to fly with a friend in his plane. We had a cloud layer on either of the days we planned to fly, freezing temperatures, and known snow inbound. As a result, we did cancel the initial departure day. I flew commercial, and he still flew in the next day.
There we go. Story with a good outcome.
Yeah, and similar situation, and it was great to have somebody write in and say they had that experience.
Yeah, and look how short that message was. It wasn't full of reasonings or justifications or it's just saw weather bad.
Yeah,
postponed flight. All worked out great. End of story.
Yeah,
and I've got to say, in the last 2 years, the number of refundable tickets that I've bought, I've never done that before this. And you realize the value of refundable tickets. I've literally canceled them with the autopilot on in flight.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. And the next from, we'll call this person CH. Charlie Hotel. All right. He says, I appreciate you sharing your story. I listen weekly and think of all of you guys as aviation friends. And by the way, thanks. That's what it's all about. So that's awesome.
Also, weekly is a great frequency, given our podcast frequency.
And note that the format of this is perfectly done in a praise sandwich, which I love a good formatted written praise sandwich. So starts off pretty good, but where is it going? We'll see. He says, I think there was too much discussion framing personal minimums as icing tolerance. My personal minimum here is that I do not fly IMC in icing conditions ever, period. If I had boots, a hot prop, or other equipment, sure, but not in my 182. I am not sure what your minimums are when it comes to flying in the clouds near freezing or below freezing, but that is something you have to figure out. You didn't share much about inversion layers, lapse rate, or warmer temps, or if all your airports en route were IMC or VMC, but those are factors to consider. That's a great point. You shared airports were within 20 miles because icing can become critical in 3 to 5 minutes. I'm not sure that helps. You have not had sufficient time if the icing, you could have not had sufficient time if the icing had been severe. How did you know it wouldn't get more severe? If you can't answer that question conclusively, then that's another factor for you to consider. In my humble opinion, this is normalization of deviance, and it sounds like you would be comfortable expanding your tolerance to do this again. I'd be remiss if I didn't share this. Is something I would not do. I fly regularly and regularly push my personal minimums, so I get it, but never when it comes to icing. So Ben, obviously you've preempted a lot of this with your response already, but anything else on that?
No, I did. And we had a very good back and forth. Again, one of the great things about this specific community is there's a very high level of respect throughout the entire community. And I absolutely love that. And we don't really have a lot of tolerance when people get disrespectful. So we keep a close eye on that. But,
yeah.
My response to him is that the freezing level at my departure airport was 7,000 feet, and it was going higher the further we got south. And I had planned a route that gave me the MEA was, you were above the MEA at around 4,000 feet. We purposely did not cross over any mountains. We flew almost 100 miles out of the way to avoid all that. But his overall point is absolutely right. I thought I was going to be in warmer temperatures, and it didn't turn out that way. But his point is right. I didn't know what the accumulation rate was going to be. And there were actually, again, it doesn't matter. I shouldn't have taken that flight. And to his point, he was absolutely right.
There's a couple of things I really like about this. The one is giving the commentary about if you're in severe icing, it doesn't matter that 20 miles away is an airport, because you've got more of an emergency than that. That was a good point that he made. The other thing I've got to point out about this is not what we're used to seeing in comment sections. This is very thoughtful feedback presented and delivered very, very well. And
I agree. And I do want to point out, I don't think I mentioned this before, the worst level of meteorological conditions at the airports was marginal VFR. So the ceilings were, at that level or VFR. So we were flying into better weather. And so I did not mention that earlier. And that was one of the big points that I wanted to make sure that when I was doing my flight plan.
Well, and you talked to a weather briefer. I mean, this is not just you taking a shot, and not getting other input or insights. So, I mean, if anything, it's just healthy for people to understand that you use all the resources that you have and then some, and you still could come out on the wrong side of all of these things. So it's important to just, while it's great to have mentors or services or things you can go to get helpful insights as to whether it's a go, no go, it's up to you, pilot in command. And there's going to be a lot of texture and context and more subtle dynamics to the entire equation that you are the only one that you can do the calculus to put all that together. So just keep that in mind.
Most definitely. Friend of the show who has been on many times and the leader of our flight debrief, which I thought he was going to be appearing out of nowhere based on Ted's initial intro. Wendell Geek says, the question I have is this: what is the difference between pushing personal minimums and normalization of deviance? It seems like it's a very thin line. And what I would say to that, I would describe it as just a very slippery slope. And the one takeaway from this experience, as pointed out to my friends, just because you think you have outs may not mean that you actually have outs. So, what do y'all think?
Well, okay. I am not a CFI, but I have taken a few written tests. The thing that gets you out of normalization of deviance, in my point of view, and you can take this for what it's worth, I'm not a CFI. Did I say that already? I'm not a CFI. Process. And what is personal minimums? Personal minimums is the result, the codification, the resulting conclusions of a process. So all of these things to me are healed and understood by having a clear process. So normalization of deviance, in my point of view, at least in this one angle that I'm talking about it, is, so just say, for instance, you have your minimums are, say that I don't fly more than a 10 knot crosswind. And then you come in and you land in a 12 knot crosswind. Okay, cool. And then you land in a 13 knot crosswind. Cool. You're not consciously thinking about, does this meet my own standard in order to raise my minimums for crosswind landings? You're just now starting to normalize the deviation away from what those standardization points are that you've made for yourself, that you're holding yourself accountable to. And before you know it, here you are now landing in 18 knot max demonstrated crosswinds, yet you have still not even upgraded your kind of personal SOPs or your minimums to reflect what that is. So that then now you end up in a situation where you're traveling, you've got family in the plane, you really want to get to the beach, and it's an 18 knot crosswind, and you've slow crept that deviance of your own monitoring of your own crosswind performance to where now you're gonna go after that. So, I think that process ultimately is the key to the pathway through both of those things. But, Geek is really asking, what's the difference? I mean, I think that one is sort of a componentry or a subset of another.
I agree with that. There are going to be pilots out there that are just going to fly on VFR days, and there's no reason for them to push beyond their personal minimums. There's also going to be pilots that are going to be flying for the airlines or going to be flying for the military, and they're constantly going to be pushed and expanding their minimums because they're going to have to. And I'll go ahead and read Lord Alpha Juliet's comment in the chat. The other difference is this a skill limitation or a physics, luck limitation? I think that's a really good point.
Yeah. Chuck Yeager, he says, can't fly an airplane overloaded with ice. That is true. Nor should you fill your plane with ice either. I mean, this is either like you don't want it outside or inside.
No. Just ice is bad. We're just going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's not an excuse to go out and fly on icing because you're going to be doing it in the airlines. I want to be clear on that. I'm not saying that at all. But I, for myself, plan on being or flying professionally. And I used to have the, the limitation of no IFR at night. And eventually I'm going to have to get to that point. So.
Well, I would like to thank you for your candor and your humanity and your inspirational qualities of as a person and as a pilot. And I'm gonna say you're still the sage, Ben. You have not lost. You haven't lost the title. Mike Alpha Golf is saying the slippery slope from expanding personal minimums to normalization of deviance is greased by, quote, defensiveness and circumvents your process, ? Yeah, I mean, I think this is a really cool. So here's the thing. I'd love to keep this conversation going. Please get into our Discord, guys, and everybody in the chat, and please keep this going because the more we can dig this out, I love the sort of conversational starter that Wendell Geek framed, which is where does personal minimums fit in with normalization of deviance? I think that's a great place to start. So,
and if you're listening to this, send us, email us, midlifepilotpodcast@gmail.com. And we would really love to hear from you on this topic.
We think that we would love to hear from you. We're not sure, but we believe. No, we want to hear from you. Now, so let's turn the page here real quick and wrap up with a couple of fun spots here. So we did take a stab recently at having a little bit of a midlife confessional. I mean, It's not very anonymous when it's just Ben every week telling us whatever he did. But,
these are anonymous confessionals, which is when we're tired of saying it's Ben doing it.
This is what I do for the podcast. I encourage others just in there. I put myself out there to try to encourage more confessionals to come in the door. You're welcome.
Ben will do a reenactment of your confessional and claim it as his own.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He'll just be the lightning rod for all aviation criticism for all of us going forward.
It's important to the FISDO that they know that these are actually Ben doing it. These are Ben relaying stories as if he had done it. So
Ben's got the huge target painted right on his front and his back.
Yeah. If we muddy the waters enough, there's no resulting investigations that could ever come from anything, because it's like, I don't know, it's like an Andy Kaufman thing. It's like, I don't know. Like, is it real? I don't know. These guys, they're kind of out there, man. Like, you don't know what
Yeah.
All right. Listener feedback. Name is, I'm seeing here from Redacted.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. All right. Name Redacted. He says, are we still doing confessional type stuff? By the way, I love this opener. That's so good. And here's what he brings. He says, my instructor pencil whipped my night landings for the 10 required, and I'm not really a fan of that stuff. He marked 10 full stop taxi backs in 1.6 hours when I really did maybe 6 or 7 touch and goes, and I didn't say anything. I am hoping to make a career change into aviation. Getting paid to fly instead of paying to fly just sounds like a dream. Am I going to get a logbook check or audit and then ruin my chances? Well, so the FAA has already subpoenaed our inbox. No, so here's the thing I would say about that. I want to hear what you guys have to say about it. I do understand that there is a small amount of wiggle room or governance that instructors or people may use when it comes to logging. And I understand that there is also some aspects of creative logging that is going on. I can't say that I approve of that. I can't say that you should. I can't say that it's probably more important if you're not a fan of night landings to figure out how to become a fan of night landings, because they are pretty awesome. But I can totally understand the reticence. And instructors are always, I believe, on a bit of a balancing beam between how do I keep my students' confidence growing and moving forward versus holding them back in ways that maybe might more broadly be reductive to them. That's for somebody else to say or whatever. So my official answer is going to be that. And then, Ben, I want you to speak to the part about if you are a person that's looking to go professional and get paid to fly, and you're asking this question, what do you think about that?
First of all, I do want to say it's these small things in my life that would keep me up throughout the night, worrying about those extra 3 or 4 night landings that I didn't do. And it's just because you're not being honest with yourself, and that's where I lose sleep. The fact of the matter is, if you're going to make a career change, you're going to get proficient at night landing. Whether they pencil whip you into 10 and you didn't do it, you're going to need to get a job. What I'm seeing in the marketplace right now is they want to see 100 hours a night. And guess what? You're going to get a lot more landings than 10 when you're doing that. So from a practical standpoint, it's kind of an arbitrary number that they've come out with, or maybe not arbitrary, but they said, okay, for your private, you need 10 landings at night. Okay. And if that's as far as you're going to go as your private pilot license, then, that's one thing, but you'll get your 10 landings, you'll get proficient at it. And it's going to be something that you're going to have to get used to. But, that's how I feel. It's still important though. For me, you need 10 landings, go get 10 landings.
I want to note that this is good timing to talk about this because it is normalization of deviance, right? Like this is literally what we're talking about. But I can also play devil's advocate on this, which is you're going to have more landings than that by the time you fly professionally. How would they know to go and check those? How are they going to audit those? Hopefully you have hundreds of night landings by then. If a couple don't match, they wouldn't know. That's me playing devil's advocate. I'm not saying that's the way to go. We also have the anonymous quote of fly what you want, log what you need. But I want to hit some of the other comments on there too. Ugly Cub makes a good point, which is just go out and land those 10. Just do 10 full stop taxi backs. You don't have to log those. Fly them. You'll know. So,
yeah. Also, can I make one quick point? Things that are requirements for a reason. And sometimes it's not clear to you when you are a new training pilot, or, you may not really understand why there are these particulars around some of these requirements. And so I just want to say also that while I can appreciate that touch and goes certainly save time and gas, two things. One, when I look back to my instruction time with my instructor learning, my first night flight or whatever, or maybe we did a couple, I guess. And then, he would have us do stop and goes. In retrospect, I'm thinking I would not do that. You're giving up all this runway in a time where it's all you've really got. Why would you? I don't know. There's a fine line between time savings and learning what you need to know. And the thing that you're missing when you're doing touch and goes and cutting the corner on this requirement to not do full stop taxi bags is you are missing the experience of taxiing and locating in the dark and understanding signage and markings and how things look and how sometimes at night it's very hard to see that things, that there's a bend here, or sometimes there's things marking the edge of the pavement and sometimes there's not, or I don't know. So you just need to be in an airport environment taxiing around. And if minimally you could just do that, then it would be amazing. So that's the only thing I think it's not about just getting the count of the landings. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Our friend Mike Alpha Golf says BS2 sounds like a real instructor.
No.
Shit. And that's what 6 weeks of studying in your books. That's what you get. I mean, come on.
Look, he's pencil whipped his way to instructor.
That's exactly right. I agree with what you're saying. It's the practical experience of doing it. That's why they have it in there. I would go get another instructor and say, let's go knock out a few more night landings. You don't have to tell them anything about the previous instructor. Just go out there. You've got the black hole effect. You've got that inky well that you need to start getting that sight picture built for those night landings. So that's the point.
I want to thank you for sending that confessional, Mr. Redacted. And please, if you guys want to keep it going, send more in and we'll kick these things around. I love it because there's just so many things that are just under the surface that, questions you don't really feel like you can ask in a public forum. In that way, we will be very discreet with our handling of your email. Ted,
another way to look at that is the chances that this person will make it to 1,000 or 1,500 hours, and that's the only thing that has been pencil whipped in their logbook. If that's it, nobody would know, right? But if you're the person that would do that, by the time you get to 1,500, you've probably done a lot more. This is, and that's why I think looking at this in isolation is different.
Yeah. And you're going to get to a point, if you're being paid to fly, you're going to get to a point where you're only logging for your own currency. You're not, so, all right, Ted, do you want to do the, we have a fantastic review and we want to remind people that you can go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review and write some things. And then, if they're, vaguely kind, we'll read them.
Yeah. So I'm going to read this one. Mike Alpha Golf left a review, and that's great. And Mike Alpha Golf will have a instrument check ride debrief coming out in a couple of weeks, and it is fantastic. I finally got a chance to watch it, and it was great.
It's outrageous. It's so good.
Yeah. Title super fan, 5 stars, of course. I'm a midlife GA pilot and super fan of the show. In short, it's a podcast where your internet pilot buddies are somehow both extremely wise and definitely unsupervised. For me, it's essential listening. I mean, it's hangar talk from a group of pilots who probably shouldn't be allowed to influence each other. And I'm sure there's at least one service bulletin requiring post-podcast cranial inspections. But seriously, the podcast and Discord are one of the great joys of my midlife. Like Alpha Golf from the lakeside opposing bases under the Swamp River Mardi Gras Bravo.
Whoa.
And if you had long airport names on your bingo card,
yeah,
check that one off.
Yeah, it's longer than 4 words, and it's allowed in feedback. Sorry.
There you go.
It is fun to fly out of an opposing base's airport with parallel runways and hear them say that to you. And you're just like, oh, that's where this comes from. This is awesome. Mike Alpha Golf, he hosted us this summer and took us to an amazing restaurant, and he showed me around town. I have great memories of that, and someone would really, really like.
Very cool. What else, fellas? Anything else for the good of the order?
I think we've given the FISDO enough to go through.
Awesome. Well, again, don't forget to subscribe on your podcast player. As Brian said, please leave us a review. And this week's words of wisdom. I can't remember if I read this one or not. I don't think I have, and I'm keeping pretty good notes. A lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth is putting on its shoes. So be honest out there, boys. Signing off, episode 160 of the Midlife Pilot Podcast. Goodbye, everybody.